Um, Hi, I'm Simi. I'm the Square Books event coordinator. We're so excited about this event tonight. Real quick, a few general announcements. Your audio is going to stay turned off throughout the duration. Thank you for being patient and cool about that. We have some cool upcoming events. Bookstore Romance Day is on Saturday, and there's a really cool panel from Avon's Books that's going to be at 1 p.m. CST with Meg Cabot, Talia Hibbert, and Alexis Daria. If you want more information on that, you can email rsvp@squarebooks.com. Next week, we have Ashleigh Blooms in conversation with Tom Franklin for Every Bone of Prayer on Tuesday. We have Jill McCorkle in conversation with one of our owners, Lisa Howarth, for her book Hieroglyphics on Wednesday. And then on Friday, we're going to have virtual happy hour with Alice Randall and Caroline Randall Williams for Black Bottom Saints. And St. Leo is going to be making us a cocktail, which is pretty cool. So we are here tonight for Ashleigh Bryant Phillips and her book Sleepovers, and Mary Miller is here in conversation with her. And I am going to go away so that y'all can hear them talk and enjoy. Thanks, everyone.
Are we unmuted now?
Okay.
Are we?
I think yeah. We
Okay.
are. Hi, Ashleigh.
Hey. Thank you for doing this with me. I know it's these Zoom events are something else in this world.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. So just, are we supposed to briefly introduce ourselves, and then you'll read for us a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
My name's Mary Miller. I'm the author of 4 books, a couple of novels, most recently Biloxi, and I live here in Oxford, Mississippi. Ashleigh?
Yeah. I have Biloxi right here in front of me.
Nice.
Look, it matches my lamp in the back. Look at that.
It looks really good that way.
Yeah, I love that. I love that cover. Like, you never would think it's bologna until you look real close, and then you see a piece of bologna.
I know. I really love the cover too. Yeah, they did a great job.
Yeah, I like that. But what? Yeah. Sorry, my boyfriend was just like, "Are you live right now?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm live right now." My name's Ashleigh Bryant Phillips, and my debut collection of short stories is Sleepovers, and it came out this summer from Hub City Press. I can't believe it came out. I really did not think I would ever have a book, and so now I do. I'm from Woodland, North Carolina, which is a tiny, tiny town in the northeastern part of the state. So it's not Appalachian at all. It's very flat. And now I live in Baltimore, Maryland. Yeah, so that's all about me. And I'm thankful that y'all are here tuning in. And I'm thankful to Sammy for doing all the technical background stuff. And if it's okay with y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and read the title story from Sleepovers. If y'all are at home and feel like reading along, it starts on page 87. Sleepovers. Nikki chewed on pin caps and twisted them with her teeth. She tore off pieces and kept them in her mouth. You could see them sitting on her tongue when she talked. I could never figure how she did that without choking. She came into our class in the 4th grade. She just had her appendix taken out and the boys picked on her. Will Fletcher said she smelled like pigs. Her daddy was a hog farmer. His hog houses were back off the road on the way to school. Sometimes on the playground, when the wind blew right on the top of the swings, you could smell them. Nikki and her family had moved down from Virginia. She had 3 sisters, and they all had lots of freckles and long blonde hair. I'd never seen hair so thick and frizzy before. They all wore worn-out clothes and that looked like mine but just faded. And they all lived with their mama and daddy in front of their hog houses way back off the road on the way to school. You could see their trailers sitting back there every morning. It was yellow down a long dirt path. And Nikki had a lisp. I'd never heard anybody talk like that. And she was the littlest girl in our class. She sat in front of me, and her shoulder bones stuck out of her sleeveless tops. She was the second oldest sister. When they had sleepovers, it was like all the girls at school got invited. We played hide and go seek, and 3 girls would squish together in the same spot. One time I got a spot to myself in the kitchen cabinet, and I saw a mouse caught in a trap. I screamed, then we all screamed, and then Nikki's sister Samantha came in there and told us to shut up or we'd wake up their mama and daddy. Samantha was the oldest, and we all huddled together hanging outside the storm door to watch her fling that mouse off the porch. It was flying in the air when Nikki said, "Look, it's still wiggling." Its little body shined in the porch light, or maybe it was the moonlight, before it disappeared in the yard. "Poor thing," Samantha said. "It's half dead, half alive." Samantha always did our makeovers. I loved her to French braid my hair. She never pulled it too tight. And to make things work good with so many girls, Samantha made a rule that when she was braiding somebody's hair, that girl would be brushing somebody else's hair and getting her ready. At the first sleepover, Nikki asked me to brush her hair. I remember thinking that I didn't want to hurt her. There was probably lots of tangles in her thick, frizzy hair, maybe in the little baby hairs up around her neck. But I got all her hair in my hands and smoothed it down her back. Then I started brushing from the bottom, working out the knots. And then once all the knots were gone, I took the brush and ran it down from the top of her head all the way to the bottom. I remember she shook like she had goosebumps then, turned around and giggled, "You're giving me the tinglies." Samantha told us to hold our breath when she put her mama's nice Mary Kay mascara on us. That way we wouldn't blink. And she told us how the lipstick and eyeshadow she gave us went with our season and what that all meant. And she had a special hand mirror with sparkles in it that she used to show us our new look. And then she'd make all the girls who were too scared to get makeovers get up off the living room floor where they were giggling and carrying on. They'd move their sleeping bags out the way, clear us a circle, and we'd walk around it so everyone could see our new look. And then we'd lay down, so many of us all together. You had to tiptoe not to step on anybody. And we'd watch Titanic and look at Rose's naked body on that fancy couch, her pretty breast heaving under that big necklace. As soon as it was over, the Barrett twins would holler for somebody to rewind it, and we'd watch it again and again, the naked part. In the fall, Nikki's daddy got his leg tore off in one of the hog houses. He got caught in a piece of equipment. Every time anybody talked about it, all I could think of was how he'd wallowed in pig shit and slosh after his leg had been ripped off, dragging himself through all that mess to get some help, with all the pigs grunting and running around, slick and mud wet. The school threw a spaghetti supper for him to raise money so he could get a fake leg. But when he got it, it wasn't quite right, like it was too little or something, and he hobbled around the best he could at basketball games. And then everyone would go to him on the bottom bleacher and shake his hand and tell him how pretty all his girls were. Everyone put Nikki's daddy on the prayer list, and Mama gave me black trash bags and told me to put clothes in them I didn't want no more. She said she was going to take them to Nikki and her sisters. I filled the bags, but didn't go with her. Mama came back and talked all night at supper how Nikki and her sisters smiled when they saw all the clothes, how they started trying them on right there in the middle of the living room floor. At the lunch table, the girls talked about Nikki's new dress, how they thought she looked nicer. It was black and white plaid with yellow sunflower buttons. I didn't tell them that it used to be mine. In class, I thought about her shoulder bones. Were they sticking out more? And I wanted to brush her hair. She turned around and asked me if she could please borrow a pen. Will Fletcher looked at me and said, "She's gonna eat it." I reached into my pencil box and grabbed a pen that I had chewed on and gave it to her. She took it and started to trace a picture of one of them wild horses running on the beach. She really liked that section in our North Carolina notebook. How those horses swam to shore after shipwrecks and stayed there in their own horse families, taking care of each other for hundreds of years in their own horse way. I watched Nikki work on the wild horses. She'd scratch out the tail and start again to get it right. The next thing we knew, all the sisters stopped coming to school one day. The teacher told us they'd gone back to Virginia. We emptied Nikki's desk out. The boys tipped it over, and all her wadded up homework and half-used notebooks spilled out. Us girls dumped out her pencil box. She didn't really have any crayon colors we needed. She didn't really have many crayons at all. All she had was the regular colors that everybody has, nothing special. But we split them between us anyways, and I stayed and dug for a pen cap to keep. Thank you.
That was great. I loved hearing you read that one. So this is the title story.
Mm-hmm.
And did you always know it would be the title story, or how did you choose a title for the collection?
Well, I guess I had all of the titles of the stories written out on one sheet of paper, and my boyfriend said, "Sleepovers would be a good title." So I thought about it and I said, "Yeah, that sounds about right to me."
Yeah, that's usually how it works.
Before that, when it was still my thesis, I wanted to title it "Walk Through This World with Me," which is an old George Jones song.
Mm-hmm.
But my thesis advisor said that sounded like a children's book.
Yeah, it does. Sleepovers too is so memorable, and it's so easy and specific. I feel like I'd go to the store and be like, it's something like walk, and I think it's like there's a path. You know? Yeah. So this is really, it's a great title and easy to remember. So we were talking a little bit before just about how a sleepover is such rich material, and how I feel like, I don't know, as we were saying, boys have their own stories, but like, yeah, I could tell so many sleepover stories, and now I'm trying to think like, why haven't I written one? Of course, I would probably implicate a lot of people, and it was always, I feel like, kind of the oddest ball friend would have these enormous sleepovers, and you'd go to this house that was so different from your own in like every possible way, and like would see how these people lived. And I don't know, I remember this one family's house I went to, and they were very wealthy, and the front half of their house was like immaculate, and then the back where they all lived was like, it was just like a construction zone, and there were, just holes in the walls and dog poop, and I would try to explain it to my parents, because I just thought it was wild and incomprehensible, like these two parts of the house and what was generally presented to guests, and what the sleepover kids got to see. But anyway, I don't know, it brought all of that stuff up for me.
Yeah, and it's also, I guess, maybe the idea of the sleepover is the first time any person in their life maybe becomes aware of how other people live.
Totally.
How other people exist, like outside of their own little world that they know. And I guess for most people, that bubble burst again whenever you move somewhere different, or for me, whenever I went to college. But yeah, I guess in a way, sleepover is kind of like the first time that happens for anybody. And some people, I
Yeah.
mean, you probably have stories like this too, but some little kids, they can't handle being away from their family, and they got to call their mama to come pick them up, and they can't stay the whole night.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. I feel like I can't think of an instance where I didn't make it unless I was maybe just super young and I don't recall it.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember some nights you were just like praying, like, let me make it to the morning kind of thing, because it could be just weirdly traumatic. And I don't know, there's that line about like just everybody's piled on the floor and like so many of us all together, and you had to tiptoe not to step on anybody, it was just like that. But anyway, yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Lots of memories. Another thing that and I think the first time I read it, of course I noticed it, but as you read it, it stuck out to me so much, just the repetition of hair and the hair and brushing the hair and the thick and frizzy and the thick frizzy, like how do you work, like do you work with repetition in a way that's overt, or does it come sort of naturally, or yeah, how do you feel?
Yeah, I guess that's a good question. When I first wrote this story, I wrote it for a nonfiction class. And then I realized that there were things I wanted to put in there that didn't happen in real life. And I was like, okay, so that's going to make it a short story. And
Yeah.
then I was like, what happens in good short stories? And I didn't realize this until a couple weeks ago when I was talking about Gene Toomer's Cane. Have you ever read that?
I haven't.
So he has a lot of really short stories in that book. And a lot of them look at women, and they're like obsessive observations of women. But they're very beautiful, and the language is really kind of like musical, and there is repetition. So probably in my own way, I was like trying to write a Gene Toomer obsessive little story. And I guess for me, one of the things I zoomed in on was the hair. Because really, in real life, I had never met a girl. All of those girls, those sisters, I'd never seen anybody with hair so thick in my life. And that really, yeah, I was obsessed with that in real life. I mean, the kind of thick and they were all naturally blonde, so like the top was almost bleached, but then the bottom layers were like dark blonde, like that's how thick. Now I'm just going to sound like a creep.
Well, it's actually a really tender moment, and it's probably, I hate the phrase, but like the heart of the story is brushing the girl's hair and be careful like not to pull it and to get all of the knots out. And as a little girl, yeah, I hated to have my hair brushed because my mom just wanted to get it done, and she had 3 other kids' hair to brush and like, breakfast to make. And I hated her to do it because she wasn't careful enough. And then like the final scene where you do get all, the narrator gets all of the knots out and is able to brush it like smoothly from top to bottom. Yeah. And I feel like you can hear it too. That makes a very specific sound.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I always, when someone brushes my hair, I get the tinglies. Like that always happens with me.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
like
know.
the tinglies. Now also it's just like, I wonder why she spelled it with a Y-S and not an I-E-S. But yeah, the tinglies. I mean, who spells the tinglies?
I know. I don't know. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for Hub City because they were easy on me with stuff like that. They just kind of trusted me with whatever. Like I learned later when I had a story in the Paris Review, and they were really editing it. Good God, they were editing it. And they would highlight stuff, and then they would say, "Is this vernacular?" ?
Yeah.
But Hub City really trusted me with whatever word choice, vernacular, whatever I wanted to do. So that was
I
nice.
know, and also we don't realize some of like our phrases down here sound so nutty,
Hmm.
just because you've heard them all your life. And I remember the first time, I got copy editing notes, and what is it, STET, stet? I'm not even,
Yeah, I didn't know what that was.
but it means leave this alone. I was just like stet, stet, stet. Like, yeah, uh, yeah, they know what they're saying. They know what they're doing. Um,
Did they leave it alone for you?
Yeah, I feel like generally I've had pretty good experiences with editors across the board, and they do, I feel like, want to defer to writers and trust the writers to,
Hmm.
to know, like, yeah, I did this for a very purposeful reason. This was not on accident. Um, but yeah, I too, like the Paris Review and the Oxford American, there's some magazines that do so much more editing than I think, we're generally used to.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I remember my first publication with the Oxford American, and it was a fiction, it was a short story, and they fact checked it.
They
And
did with me
I thought,
too.
yeah, with like fiction, and there was some question about whether the big boy at Shoney's was still there in the year I'd set the story. And I was just like, wow, like they really, really fine tooth combed this. And I'm sure it's just an intern's job or something, but it was,
Yeah, I mean, it's probably just a matter of like the person at the bottom who's doing the work is trying to kiss up to their boss, and they want to feel like they can turn something in, like, look what I found that we could possibly.
yeah, we got the big boy out. I was
Yeah.
like, we got the big boy. um, so let's see, where else should we go with the story? I was reading in an interview, and this is sort of off the topic of the story, but that in undergrad you studied history. Is that right? And like you,
Yeah, well, I studied English and then history. So both
yeah,
of those two. And I went to a small women's college, um, and that was like wild in itself. But I guess because it was a traditionally based English program, one of the things you had to do in order to graduate was to be able to recite Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, the beginning, in Old English.
wow,
And at that point, I thought that was a bunch of baloney. And I remember I told my advisor that, and she was the one who taught the Old English class. And I was in her class. And she was like, "Why are you getting F's on your papers? Like, I know you're smart." And I said, "Why do I need to learn a language that no one knows anymore? Like, this isn't going to help me write my short stories."
yeah. Well, wait, how much did you have to memorize? What's the first part? Like,
One that April with a shorty salty, the drought to march a piss to the royalty, and then a bunch of other, maybe like the first 18 or 20
okay,
lines.
wow, yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty intense.
But the English program, um, I mean, the history program, I focused a lot on the history of the American South. And in particular, I was interested in the Civil War because when I was growing up, um, unfortunately, I went to a very tiny private school that was definitely established during the time of desegregation, which there are small private schools all throughout the South that were established during that time. And so I went to one of them, and I never really learned any history past the Civil War. And when I got to college and I figured that, you know, there's probably a lot of stuff that I learned wrong or didn't know at all. And so I took a lot of like Civil War classes, which led me to writing my history research on the insurrection, the uprising of Nat Turner, um, which happened in southeastern Virginia, actually in the county where I was born. So right above the county where I grew up in North Carolina is this little county in Virginia. And it's been known for forever as a cultural backwater in Virginia. But that's where Nat Turner had an uprising, and he led a slave rebellion and killed some folks. But it's wild because even as I was growing up as a child, my family members, like, we would pass by a tree or pass by a road, and my family members would be like, that's where they put Nat Turner's head on a post.
Oh wow. Yeah, the memories are long.
Yeah, so anyway, I got to college and I was like, I want to learn about this particularly. And I found out through some research that Nat Turner's mother had come from Ghana. And my undergraduate degree, or my undergraduate college, they really they wanted every student to study abroad. There was a huge push to study abroad. So all of my friends are going like to France or England or Australia. And then I come up and I'm like, I want to go to Ghana. I want to see slave castles. Like, I want to learn more about it. And good God, like, trying to explain that to my family, that was something else. Like, my family just thought I was going over there to kind of like bring Christianity.
So you did a semester abroad in Ghana?
Mhm.
Wow. Could you basically just choose anywhere and they would like work it out and figure out how to get you over there, or
Well, yeah, so like I mean, I still had to like pay for it, you know. But I had a lot of PE credits that I still needed to get, and I found out that this program in Ghana, you could take dance classes. And so
Hmm.
I got my dance classes to count for my PE credits. And then I took history courses in Ghana as well, which counted for towards my degree. Yeah. So that worked out. Everyone was real supportive. And they were also excited because not many students from that college went to Ghana to begin with. So
Sure, yeah. You see, yeah, I'd like to go to Paris. Or yeah, Australia. Um, yeah, I went to Mississippi State. I didn't know anybody that did a semester abroad actually. Yeah. No, nobody introduced me to that fun concept. So that's too bad.
But
Um,
there's still time after all this is over, you know? There's time. I
that's
feel
right.
like after all this is over, people are going to travel the hell they're going to travel everywhere.
Yeah, well, definitely, I think be much more excited about it before
Mhm.
it's like, another trip. And I didn't even travel that much, but um, yeah, that was sort of a long way to say, but like, because I didn't do any writing in undergrad or any creative writing, and I was a psych major, and I'd never heard of like an MFA program until I was
Mhm.
well out of college. And I
Oh,
think
wow.
you were kind of like that. Like you weren't taking creative writing classes or doing workshops or anything like super early on. Or did y'all do that in college?
Well, Meredith College had one creative writing class, and I took it and I really loved it. And then, like, because I couldn't take it again, like, it already fulfilled a credit, like, my college was just like, well, sorry, but that's the only thing we can offer you. But they were really nice. The head of the department, she like found out there was like a very small little creative writing award that they could give to a student who showed promise, and they awarded it to me, and then they advised me to take that money and enroll in fiction workshops at NC State, which is
So,
right across the road from where I went to school. So that's what I did. So I guess I took 2 creative writing classes in undergrad, but I didn't think I was good enough for MFA at all. And a lot of my friends were going on to get English graduate degrees or like history graduate degrees or like going to law school.
Yeah.
And they were all like, well, Ashleigh, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, I'm just going to stay in Raleigh because I don't want to go back home. And then my advisor said I should apply for an MFA. And I was like, what? So, yeah. Who told you about MFAs?
Well, I guess I got a psych degree, and then I worked like with children in state custody for a few years, and I worked for the Social Security Administration, taking like disability claims for a few years. And then I don't know, I think finally I just thought, well, I've always kind of liked poetry, so I'll start trying to write poetry. And for a while I was unemployed, like I could not handle the disability claim thing any longer.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, if I don't get out now, everybody there was like a lifer. Like you spent 30 years there until you retired, and everybody was super miserable. And I was just like, I can't do
No, that's
I can't.
scary. That's scary to plug into something like that when you're young.
Yeah. I got the job, I think I was maybe 23.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I bet your coworkers were like in their 40s and 50s.
Well, a lot of them had been there for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
There was really no turnover. You just got the job and held on to it because it was, it's a federal job and it paid really well. And this was in East Mississippi and Meridian. And so there's not a ton of opportunity over there. But anyway, I finally got out and I thought, well, you've always sort of liked poetry. So I just started trying to write and teach myself how to write poetry. And that eventually led to writing fiction and getting an MFA. And I went to Southern Mississippi for a couple of years because I knew I really liked Frederick Barthelme, and he was
Mm-hmm.
at the program there.
And then you went to Texas, right?
I did, and then
That's a really nice program.
yeah, the Misters and Masters, it is really nice. I know. I wish I could have stayed there forever. Yeah, I wasn't cut out for the PhD, and so I ended up getting an MA and then an MFA. So way too many Masters of Arts degrees, but that's all right. Yeah, let's see. Where should we go from here?
Well, I can talk about when I moved home after my MFA, I almost got kind of locked into a job that was kind of similar, like a lifer job, selling car and farm insurance, because probably like you, it was like one of the best jobs in the area, and I really was not cut out for that at all. I was miserable at it. Like, farmers would call me and they'd be like, hey, I'm looking at a combine right now. Can you tell me how much it'd be to add it to my, add it to my policy? And then I'd have to like search through a whole bunch of books like this thick and do calculations and then call them back. Or anyway, I was really bad at that. And everybody I worked with was in their 50s, 60s.
Yeah, that sounds really, really, really pretty miserable. But I think for a lot of, I think to like liberal arts educated people and creative people, just sales is it's not a strong suit. And actually I saw both of my parents were in sales for forever. My mom like sold cable and radio, and my dad sold life insurance and financial stuff that I don't even, and yeah, it's you can do well at it, but it's not an easy life. And yeah, just not suited to my personality at all. I'd just be like like sink or swim, or what is it? Yeah, sink or swim. I'd be like, I'll just sit here and sink, I guess.
Yeah. I think I was about to get fired. And so it was really nice whenever I won the Hub City Prize, because the book was associated with like a debut fiction prize. And like, if you won the prize, you got some money and then you got the book published. And so as soon as I found out, it's kind of crazy. As soon as I found out that I won the contest, and like word got out in my little community. The local paper came by my work to take pictures of me on my lunch break, and then they put me on the front page of the paper.
Oh, wow.
And then that Friday, my boss came into my office and he said, over the weekend, I want you to go home and I want you to pray. And I want you to think about if this is the right job and position for you. I want you to go home and pray about it. And then on Monday, when you come back, I want you to let me know if you want to.
Dying. Oh man. Yeah, I know right now, boss. It's not it. This isn't
Yeah.
it.
So that was good. And then with that money, me and my boyfriend, we were able to move. And so now we both have jobs that we like a little bit better. I'm in sales actually still, but I'm selling natural wine and sake. So
Okay.
that's a whole different ball game, but
I feel like people are very thirsty right now. So
yes.
I mean, it
Yes.
sells itself.
But that's much better. That's nicer and it's easier. Than having to worry about how much it would cost to insure somebody's, acres of cotton in case someone next to them oversprays their fertilizer and damages their crops. Yeah.
I know. I look back on it too, especially the job with Social Security, and I was in charge of like people's lives. Like, don't put a 23-year-old idiot, in charge of people's lives. And yeah, when you were like, no, we had these books. It was like I had so many books that were this big, and I'd ask a question, they'd be like, look it up in your book, and I'm like,
Right. They love those books. They love those books.
yeah, I'm like, this is your government at work.
Yeah, it's like your Bible at work.
This is very scary. I know. I wonder if I could get in trouble about talking about this. It's been so long.
I wonder. I might get in trouble too, but I don't know.
We'll pipe it. I think we do have some questions. Let me see what questions are real quick. So this collection spans so many characters talking in first person with such rich detail and history. Can you talk a little bit about how you think through unfolding these individuals in each short story?
The individuals just tell me what they want to tell me, and I just write what they tell me, and I write what I know about them. And I guess ideally, I try to know the whole life of that person before I attempt to show, just a couple of hours or whatever, or just like one turning point from their life. Because it does feel really weighty. Like I would like somebody to know my whole life before they try to write a short story about me. It just makes sense. And I guess for me, the characters that are speaking in first person, they're people that I know, or they're some altered version of myself. So I think that answers the question.
And like trying to go back to something you said earlier. But one of the things, that's so interesting in a lot of these stories is they are just like tiny memoirs or tiny novels. You do capture so much of the characters' lives. I feel like even in Sleepovers, you zoom in and we get that experience at the overnight, sleepover. But then, the girls move away and we don't know kind of what happens to them, and their story for the narrator ends. But I don't know. It's so much more than just a sleepover that you're able to sort of, tell. Okay, let's see what else we have. Is there a common theme or link between the stories in the collection?
Yeah. Uh, I think a big theme is grief, or another way of saying grief is like longing after a loss. Um, just in the story I read today in Sleepovers, the narrator, I mean, she's longing for Nikki, the friend that she lost. And you don't really know that until the end, um, because, like, why else would Nikki, well, why else would the narrator be telling this story? She's telling the story because she misses that experience being with that group of sisters. She's grieving that. That's why she's sharing the story. Um, so I would say that's a common theme. And it's one that I haven't seen a lot of reviewers like hone in on. Um, I guess because there's like so many other things to look at. But uh, yeah, I didn't start writing these stories until I realized that, like, my experience growing up was different than other people around me in college who, like, only saw their cousins like once a year, or who didn't grow up Southern Baptist, had no idea what Bible school was, or um and so once I realized that I was from a rural place and that rural place was quickly dying, I figured I better start trying to, I guess, preserve it in some way. But then I also missed it too, as troubled and as hurtful as a lot of it is. I do miss it. I think you're muted. Okay, now, all right, I can hear you now.
Yeah, it wouldn't let me unmute. I was gonna say there's several stories. Shania comes to mind where people move away and or kind of disappear from the
Mhm.
narrative lives. And I feel like as a kid, especially as a kid, if you're not like in a big city or there's not a lot of coming and going, a new student is just like this. I mean, it's a celebration. It might
Yes.
new student. And then, yeah, if somebody disappears, it's sort of the same thing. It's a big event because,
Mhm.
I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, which is technically a city, but there's not a lot of coming and going. And generally, yeah, if people might move from one academy to another, but you are
Mhm.
freedom,
Yeah.
there wasn't like, so I don't know. I loved that because I think that's also sort of a universal experience where you wonder, yeah, what happened to this person who was your friend? And they just
Mhm.
sort of like, as far as you can, fall off the map. There were no letters being written. Just one day they
Mhm.
disappeared. Um, this one's really long. Let's see. You often let emotion burst into scenes. The character who wanted to be hugged by the phone store employee, the one who imagines how another character would like it, the bored tie my boyfriend up under the table scene before the action of the story acts. Do these scenes occur to you as you write, or do you plan them? They're really wonderful, a jolt of refreshment that most writers don't allow in their work.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you for thinking that way. Um, Whoever asked that question. Um, hmm. I just know that those are the emotions that those characters feel, and I just know that. And I'm just trying to write short stories that are reflective of who my characters are. So I just, and I mean, sometimes before I write the story, like when I'm figuring out in my brain before I write it down, most of the time, I don't know if this is the same for you, Mary, but like most of the time before I write a short story, I kind of know in my brain what I'm going to be doing. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I definitely sit down with a purpose, and like I have a first line of dialogue or a first sentence, and I sort of know who's speaking,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, so I never just sit down and open it and have no idea what I'm gonna write.
Right.
That's too
Right.
painful.
I know. Sometimes I feel like most of the time before I write the short story, I know kind of like the ending that I'm writing to.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I get in there and I'm in like the flow of it, emotional bursts will happen that I didn't originally plan in the grand outline, but they like complement or work towards what I'm trying to do. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I even know like the ending that I'm working towards. And then I'll go back and revision and I'll realize that I can often end a story a lot shorter than how I originally wrote it. Do you ever find that's true?
Well, it's sort of like the standard, what I tell my students is look very closely at like the first 2 pages and the last few pages, because often you're trying to write your way into a story and it hasn't started yet. You're just kind of
Mm-hmm.
working up to it. And then the ending too, I think is the same thing. You can drag it out to where, you cut a paragraph or two and you find like the really strong, like powerful, more interesting ending. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I never know my endings. I feel like when I start, I just sort of know the beginnings and the character and the place, but it's still a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I try to let them surprise me, but you know, sometimes they do, and sometimes they're just like, I'm just gonna sit here.
Yeah.
Like, no, no, buddy.
Can
Yeah,
can I ask you a question?
yeah, of course.
Um, did you write short stories first and then you were like, I'm gonna tackle a novel?
Yeah, I started out writing flash fiction, and I wrote
Mm-hmm.
exclusively flash fiction for maybe a year or two, and then I started slowly sort of the stories gotten a little longer and a little longer, and occasionally there'd be a really long one, which was like 7,000 words or something. And then, yeah, The Last Days of California, the novel I published in 2014, was really just kind of written almost on accident. And it started with the premise of they think the second coming's about to happen in like 3 days, and so I started, and it was like Wednesday, and it was going to happen Saturday, and I was like, oh wow, so this is like a longer project, this isn't a short story. And I don't know, I did have a lot of fun working on it, and I was like, okay, I can do this. But yeah, it was sort of an unintentional, novel. I didn't intend on writing novels, and I find them, yeah, mostly very tedious. But also it's fun to have a longer project. I don't know. It's nice to wake up and know, okay, this is what I'm working on,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of this is where I am. And I liked that one in particular because they were on the road and they were driving in the car from like Alabama to California. And, you know, I was just like, all right, where are they today? And what are they doing? And, where are they going to stop and who are they going to meet? And so it was just, I don't know, it was sort of as exciting for me as it was for them. And I think that's the only, if the novel's not exciting for the writer, if it is just too much of a slog, and I've had them just where it's just a slog, you have to think like, if this is such a slog for me, like what's the reader's experience going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So have there been novels that you've like given up on because they were slogs?
yeah, yeah. One I kept trying to go back to, and I kept trying to finish it because it's such a great idea. Yeah, this is your big breakout, this is such a great idea, but that doesn't mean it should be written.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we'll have to wait and see. And yeah, the characters you have to care about them enough to where they make you feel guilty for like leaving them half finished, you know, has been
Mhm.
my experience. They're like, what? Like, you're just gonna leave me here? Like, you're not gonna finish my story?
Mhm.
So, well, I think it's 5:50. Should we take one more question, or let me see. Okay, I think we're supposed to wrap it up after that question. This was
Okay.
really fun. I enjoyed talking to you.
I know it was fun. Even though I always get nervous doing these events with people I haven't met in real life, but I was less nervous talking with you.
Well, we did do, an
Mhm.
email interview at
Mhm.
least. That was some kind of introduction.
Mhm.
Is Sammy supposed to pop back on? Or are we just supposed to sign off? Okay.
Hello, I'm back. That was so great, y'all. I really enjoyed it.
Mhm.
I liked it. It felt like a conversation between friends, and I think that's always really good. So thank you for everyone for coming. If you missed any segment of this or you want to relive it, which would be understandable, it is going to be on our YouTube channel tomorrow. You can buy copies of Sleepovers with a signed bookplate from us at Square Books. And Mary, Ashleigh, thank you so much. This was so cool.
Yeah, thank you, Sammy.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Ashleigh.
Sammy. Thanks, Mary.